Big Zay.
Morning, Brad.
Morning, boys. What's going on?
You know, we've been giving ourselves headaches because we're using math again, and it's always a mistake. But wondering, as we look at this game, wondering about different scenarios, going through this, how do the Bears, they are capable of locking in the second seed. Are they capable of getting to the first seed without getting help here?
Well, no. I mean, they're going to need help. Seattle's got to
Lose one, right.
Yeah. So they would need help. The Bears would have to win out. And Seattle would have to lose one of its remaining games. And that's 2 road games for Seattle. That's at Carolina and then at San Francisco. So there won't be the 12th man or whatever with the Seahawks. And, you've got 4 teams alive for the number 1 seed. You've got the Bears.
And 3 other teams in the division. Right?
And you've got three-fourths of the NFC West.
Right.
Brad, we were having fun with because they're so good out there in the NFC West. Which of those 3 teams do you think, how would you rank them in terms of playoff viability, team you'd want to avoid the most? Because you could look at whether or not you fear the great defense or you fear the great quarterback.
Yeah, I think, the team that's most concerning to me is the Rams. They've done it before. They've got probably the best quarterback in the league this season, right, in Matthew Stafford, who's done it before. If they've got a healthy Devontae Adams back and he's missing some time here with a hamstring, but if he's back in the mix, that's a really nasty offense to have to go against. That's really well coached, and then they've got a defensive line that can get after it now. They kind of piece it together on the back end, but that defensive line can get after it a little bit. So the Rams would probably top that list for me.
Brad, I'm going to wait till I see the all-22 before I determine whether or not San Francisco's any good. But last night they looked pretty awesome. They haven't punted now in a couple of games. I believe they had 5 touchdown passes from Brock Purdy yesterday. Watching that game, it was like, wow, like they could be as good as any team in the West. I mean, they looked really good in Indy. Now, Indy has some injuries, we know that, but what was your takeaway from that game, and how do you apply that to the Bears heading out there?
Well, my takeaway is the Bears need to find a way to cool down Brock Purdy a little bit, because if he plays like that, the Bears are going to have problems. You know, they've had some struggles stopping the pass all season. They would have to the Bears would have to somehow replicate their red zone defensive success to have any chance to stay in the ball game if Purdy's throwing like that. Now, can they cool him down a little bit? You would like to hope so, but they've been talking for a month now. Some people like, hey, keep an eye on the 49ers. If they're able to, get enough wins, Kyle Shanahan should be a really strong candidate for Coach of the Year because of the deck he's been handed this season without their 2 best defensive players for the majority of the year. Wide receiver issues, like maybe they could do a 30 for 30 on this Brandon Ayuk situation at some point. What a disaster! If you want to talk about the worst second contract ever given out in the NFL, my goodness. But Shanahan's kind of kept it together, and you take a look at it now, and you're like, my goodness, they're 11-4, they're 8-2 in the conference, and they've got 2 home games here. If they win them both, the 49ers are the number 1 seed.
Right.
If they beat the Bears, and then if they beat Seattle, they're the number 1 seed. And a team that 6 weeks ago, I think a lot of people looked at it and said, well, yeah, maybe they make the playoffs, but they've gotten hot at the right time. Probably some fair questions about strength of victory for them, but that like there is for the Bears and some of the other teams that have kind of come out of nowhere. But all of a sudden, this team's won 5 ball games in a row, a couple of them in really convincing fashion, but they haven't. Like you look at the 5-game win streak: Arizona, Carolina, Cleveland, Tennessee, the Colts. It's a step up in class for the 49ers with the Bears coming to town.
How did you read the way Ben Johnson talked about the nickelback position, in that there wasn't much information offered or maybe to be shared about C.J. Gardner-Johnson, and yet introducing the concept or idea that Kyler Gordon could be back for the playoffs?
Yeah, I don't know that him kind of throwing out Kyler Gordon's name and not saying much about C.J. Gardner-Johnson are necessarily related. The C.J. thing didn't look great when he pulled up in the end zone after trying to chase Romeo Doubs. They, have been hopeful on Kyler Gordon all season, so that's not going to – of course, they're going to hope he can return. I'm sure they're realistic at this point. He's missed most of the season. That if Gardner-Johnson is out, it's going to be Nick McLeod until maybe Gordon gets back on the practice field after the end of the regular season.
Yeah, I don't know that they were related or not, but just listening to that thing and reading the transcript later, it felt like he volunteered the information on Kyler Gordon. Like, it didn't feel like he was really being asked about it. And he was asked about Montez Sweat, and he did point out that the guy's got 9.5 sacks now. How do you read Montez's season, Brad? You look, there's 2 games left by the end of the year. The guy could be in double-digit sacks, and it looks like a great year. Now, I don't know that he had the kind of influence everyone was hoping for, but he's the highest paid defensive player, and you look at it and you say, well, he did his job.
With Sweat, one of the things I'll say is, like, when the coaches are evaluating a defensive end like him, it's kind of like the tight end position when they're evaluating that, in that they're not just looking at the numbers that are easily identifiable for the tight ends, catches, yards, touchdowns. For the defensive ends, sacks, quarterback hits, pressures, things of that nature. With the tight ends, it's run blocking. With the defensive ends, it's playing the run. It's setting the edge. And they felt like he's done a really good job with that all season. If he's able to get a couple more sacks, I think you'll look at it at the end of the year and you'll say he went out and earned his paycheck, right? Like, he did what he's supposed to do. Ben talked about him now, that they're confident that he, in one-on-one situations, he's going to win. I think we saw some examples of that Saturday night against the Packers, and you need to see that, and probably wanted to see more of that earlier in the season. Be interesting to take a look at how many of the sacks he's got so far are early in the down, if you know what I mean. Like defeats the tackle in front of him, and he's pulling down the quarterback in the blink of an eye. There doesn't feel like there's been a lot of those, but his season's been much better, I think, since the bye. And shoot, he's got 8.5 of those sacks in the last 10 ball games. So he's been pretty consistent for him too. And again,
he's playing more downs, right, Brett?
Maybe a little bit. Earlier in the year, it wasn't like he was out there an abnormally high amount. Like a guy that's getting paid what he's being paid, should be out there 75, 80% of the snaps minimum. Yeah, like I saw a crazy story the other day about Max Crosby.
Oh, he plays it.
And the number of games he doesn't come off the field for one snap. And I don't want to derail the rest of the show with Dave talking about his guy, but that's remarkable for Crosby.
Thank you. That's very distracting, though, because now I'm thinking about what it would take to get him in the offseason, because he does play every snap. All right, Brad.
And he plays on special teams. Honestly, he does.
I know. I'm a big admirer, as Brad well knows. Brad, yesterday, Ben Johnson alluded to this, and I'm just kind of curious what you thought. He recounted 2:44 left in the game, and they go third down. It's 3rd and 9, and then there's a short pass to set up 4th and 4 from the 25. And all of a sudden, it's like, well, they're waiting and waiting and waiting. You're wondering what's going on there. The umpire's standing over the ball. Ben Johnson explained they're getting a K-ball in there. It took longer than anticipated. Had it been a more efficient operation and the Bears had kicked the field goal, say, 25 seconds earlier, might they not have tried the onside kick? Did everything, all's well that ends well, blessing in disguise, all those kind of things, did the umpire maybe taking his time contribute to the Bears' decision to have to do the onside kick, which turned out in their favor?
Yeah, I think that it's an interesting question. It's one I'm tackling in my mailbag this week. I would imagine that if they get a made field goal at around 2:25 or so on the clock, they would, with 2 timeouts in their pocket, in the 2-minute warning, you feel like you can get a stop and then be getting the ball back at the 2-minute warning, with the punt on the opposite side of the 2-minute warning. Now, that's a no-brainer, easy decision if you only need a field goal there at the end. The Bears went in sort of the opposite order, and Ben talked about that. He said it's really, really difficult when you're chasing 10 points late in a ball game to get the second half of the equation when you get the field goal first. When you go from 10 now we're only trailing by 7. Like, getting that touchdown late is really hard. That you try to get the touchdown first and then leave yourself enough time to get the field goal. So 2 minutes to play, it would be a for sure kickoff if they were only chasing the 3 points. But yeah, I'm with you. I think a 225-ish, that would probably be maybe 220. I'm sure they have charts for all of this and they've gone over every scenario, but something in that range, you ought to feel comfortable if you get the 3 stops. That's the thing. They hadn't really, the only place they got stops the whole night was in the red zone, right?
That's it. They might not have been able to stop them.
See, now that's a very pertinent question to this upcoming game. As you talk about the Bears and you talk about their defense and the fact that they were steamrolled in the running game, I mean, they really gave up way too many yards, and they were absolutely lopsided time of possession from how they've been when they've been dominant in the run game. They didn't have enough possessions and they didn't hold the ball long enough. But I think that you look at, they ended up giving up 16 points. When you're a defense, you want to keep a team under 17, right? I mean, they did that, and that's how they won the game, because of the 0-5 in the red zone. But I think that changes quite a bit when you deal with, the combination of Shanahan and Purdy. It's just going to be hard to keep them out of the end zone.
And McCaffrey.
End of story. I mean, that's the whole crew.
That's the big problem.
Well, and like if you're looking at it, if Jordan Love's out there for the whole game, do the Packers, do they get into the end zone on one of those later? And I think I said it yesterday, I thought Malik Willis played pretty good football, probably made himself some money in free agency with what he put on tape the other day. So yeah, they're going to have to tighten up. What's interesting is this. You talk about Kyle Shanahan and his rushing attack because he really believes in it, and he's been great at it for a long time. And before McCaffrey, he was able to seemingly plug back in off the street and really produce and even do that when McCaffrey's been hurt in his time with the 49ers. But they're 24th in the league in rushing this season, guys. They're averaging about 104 yards a game, and yards per carry, they're 31st.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I wouldn't get stuck on those numbers because McCaffrey's so good that he's liable to blow up for a big game at any point, and he went for over 100 yards on the Colts last night. But I don't know the answers for why the running game hasn't been quite as consistent and productive as it normally is for Shanahan, but that's something that caught my attention yesterday when I was kind of trying to prepare for the week. Is this isn't the running game you'd normally expect from this team.
This segment with Brad Biggs is sponsored by Est Wing Professional Tools, made in the USA for over 100 years, estwing.com.
Brad, we both know how difficult of a place that can be for the Bears to go into and win. If not predicting a score, just what kind of game do you expect? We won't be able to talk to you the rest of the week.
What's your lean?
Where are you leaning?
Oh, you guys can call me anytime. We'll talk about it, Dave.
Well, I know that, but we're not going to put it on the air. We would not want to put on the air our conversations off
We'll
of the
give
air.
out your number, and all the fans can call and get
There we go.
fake too.
Mailbag. You need a mailbag question, too.
Yeah, well, it's going to be interesting because the 49ers have been pretty good stopping the run this season. Because I think that's where it all starts for the Bears, right? Like that's the foundation of kind of what they're doing. Sets up play action, which they continue, I think, to get better at as the season has gone along. So the Bears are going to have to stay good in the red zone, and they're going to have to be good in the red zone themselves, right? They can't fall into a trap where they're taking field goals instead of scoring, but find a way to control the game with their offensive line and maybe get some takeaways. And you never know. Like I haven't seen an update on George Kittle. It looked like he had
sprained
an ankle last night.
He said he didn't think it was a high ankle sprain, but he has a sprained ankle.
Yeah, it's a short week for those guys. Like I gotta imagine the 49ers, when the schedule came out, looked at it and said, "This is just really lopsided here for a Week 17 meeting with the Bears having." I mean, it's almost a rest advantage of almost 2.5 days. Like the 49ers got back to their residences maybe a couple hours ago, 3 hours ago, 4 hours ago with the most. No way they got home 4 hours ago. So that's a big plus for the Bears as I look at this week for sure.
Happy Christmas, Brad. Thank you. We
Brad.
appreciate your time.
Have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas. Hope all the listeners out there have a wonderful holiday season.